The thing you've been hiding is the thing that will set you free. Good afternoon. I want to tell you about someone who is changing the way we think about identity, belonging, and leadership. Someone who has built a life and a practice around helping people see that the parts of themselves they've been taught to hide, to minimize, to apologize for, are actually the very parts that hold their greatest power. Her name is Jennifer Thomas, and she is a force. She works with Black professionals and entrepreneurs who are tired of shrinking, tired of code switching, tired of making themselves smaller so that others can feel more comfortable. She helps them step into their full authenticity, heal from the weight of expectations, and lead from a place of wholeness. And what she shared with me has completely shifted the way I see identity, complexity, and strength. Jennifer Thomas is someone who has turned the complexities of being adopted and biracial into a profound source of wisdom and connection. And today I want to share with you the insights she offered, insights that challenge a belief many of us have quietly carried for far too long. Here's the belief: the parts of our identity that make us feel different, uncertain, or even invisible are liabilities. That navigating multiple worlds, multiple expectations, multiple versions of belonging is exhausting at best and limiting at worst. We've been taught to see complexity as a burden, to see difference as something to manage, minimize, or explain away. But what if that belief is wrong? What if the very thing you've been treating as a disadvantage, the thing that made you feel like you didn't quite fit anywhere, is actually the foundation of your greatest leadership strength? Let me tell you what Jennifer Thomas helped me see. She shared that being adopted and biracial, growing up trying to understand what it means to move through the world when your identity doesn't fit neatly into one box, isn't just a personal challenge, it's a leadership advantage. Navigating identity, belonging, and multiple cultural lenses builds emotional intelligence. It builds adaptability. It builds a stronger ability to connect with diverse people, to see what others miss, to hold space for complexity in a world that demands simplicity. These are not soft skills. These are the skills that matter deeply in business, in leadership, in life. But here's the thing: most of us don't see it that way. Most of us spend years, sometimes decades, trying to shrink the parts of ourselves that don't fit, trying to choose one side, trying to make others comfortable, trying to belong by becoming less. And that's the counterintuitive idea I want to explore with you today. The idea that your identity, especially when it's complex, especially when it's been questioned or minimized, does not have to be a limitation. It can become one of your greatest strengths, but only if you stop treating it like something to overcome and start treating it like something to own. Let me show you what I mean. Think about Halle Berry. She's a biracial Black woman who became one of the most visible actresses in Hollywood. But her path wasn't just about talent. It was about navigating an industry that often pressured biracial people to choose one side, to fit into narrow definitions of Blackness or whiteness, to make casting directors comfortable. Barry has spoken publicly about growing up with questions of acceptance, visibility, and identity. She didn't have the luxury of fitting neatly into anyone's expectations. She grew up in a world that asked her to explain herself, to justify her existence, to pick a lane. So, what did she do? She leaned into excellence. She leaned into visibility. She leaned into consistent self definition rather than allowing outside labels to define her. And the result? She became an Oscar winning actress. She became a culturally significant figure for representation of Black women in entertainment. Her career developed in an industry where Black women faced limited roles and stereotypes, making her success especially significant for representation. She won the Academy Award for Best Actress and became one of the most recognizable Black women in film. Her career helped expand mainstream visibility for Black women and open conversations about interracial and biracial identity in media. But here's what's important: Barry didn't succeed in spite of her identity. She succeeded because she refused to let anyone else define it for her. She turned complexity into clarity. She turned questions into answers. She turned the thing that could have limited her into the thing that made her unforgettable. Now let's talk about Kamala Harris, the first woman, first Black person, and first South Asian person to serve as US Vice President. Her background has been the subject of endless public debate. How should she be categorized? Is she Black enough? Is she South Asian enough? Does she belong here or there? These are the questions biracial and multiracial public figures face constantly. The pressure to choose, the pressure to explain, the pressure to justify your existence in spaces that weren't designed for you. But Harris didn't spend her career trying to fit into someone else's definition of identity. Her rise came through legal, political, and civic leadership, building credibility through years of public service. She framed her identity through public service, through achievement, through a broad sense of belonging across communities. She served as California Attorney General, US Senator, and Vice President, and her ascent, it broadened public expectations of who can lead at the highest levels. It strengthened visibility for women of color in politics. It became a symbolic moment for representation and possibility. Again, the pattern is clear. Harris didn't succeed by shrinking her identity. She succeeded by expanding what leadership could look like. She turned the thing that made her different into the thing that made her necessary. One more example: Zendaya, a biracial Black woman who built a major entertainment career while also becoming known for thoughtful commentary on representation, beauty standards, and identity. She has navigated the entertainment industry's narrow beauty expectations and the challenge of being positioned in ways that don't always fully reflect her identity. Her early work in youth entertainment evolved into a career marked by award winning performances and influence in fashion and culture. But Zendaya didn't wait for permission to define herself. She used selective visibility, authenticity, and strong personal branding to define her own image. She became a leading actress, producer, and cultural voice for younger audiences. She won major acting awards and became one of the most influential Black women in modern media. Her presence has helped normalize broader representations of Black girlhood, beauty, and multidimensional success. Do you see the pattern? Barry, Harris, Zendaya, three women, three different industries, three different paths, but the same strategy. They didn't wait for permission to belong. They didn't shrink to fit. They defined themselves. And in doing so, they redefined what was possible for everyone watching. Now, here's where it gets personal. Jennifer Thomas shared something with me that I think many of us need to hear. She said that the journey of growing up adopted while also trying to understand what it means to move through the world as a biracial person shapes how you see yourself, how you build confidence, and how you learn to create belonging for others when you've had to find it for yourself. Read that again. When you've had to find belonging for yourself, you learn how to create it for others. That's not a weakness, that's a superpower because most people move through the world assuming belonging is automatic. They've never had to question it. They've never had to build it from scratch. They've never had to hold space for complexity, for contradictions, for the reality that identity is not simple and leadership is not one size fits all. But you have. And that makes you better equipped to lead in a world that is increasingly diverse, increasingly complex, increasingly in need of leaders who can see people, not categories. So, why don't we see it that way? Why do so many of us still treat our identity like a burden? Because we've been conditioned to. We've been conditioned to believe that fitting in is more valuable than standing out. That simplicity is more valuable than complexity. That being easy to categorize is more valuable than being fully human. And for Black professionals and entrepreneurs, this conditioning runs even deeper because we've been taught that survival means shrinking, that success means code switching, that leadership means making others comfortable, even when it costs us our authenticity. But Jennifer Thomas is challenging that narrative. She's saying that Black professionals and entrepreneurs thrive when they stop shrinking to fit expectations and instead lead from authenticity, when they stop treating their identity like something to manage and start treating it like something to leverage. And the research backs this up. Emotional intelligence, the ability to navigate complex social dynamics, the ability to connect across difference, these are the skills that predict leadership success. And these are the exact skills that come from navigating identity, from holding multiple perspectives, from learning to belong in spaces that weren't designed for you. So, here are the three things I want you to take away from this conversation with Jennifer Thomas. First, your identity does not have to be a limitation. It can become one of your greatest strengths, but only if you stop apologizing for it and start owning it. Second, healing, self definition, and confidence are essential parts of professional growth. You cannot lead others if you haven't first learned to lead yourself. And you cannot lead yourself if you're still trying to be someone else's version of acceptable. Third, Black professionals and entrepreneurs thrive when they stop shrinking to fit expectations and instead lead from authenticity. The world doesn't need another version of what's already been done. The world needs you fully expressed, fully present, fully unapologetic. So let me ask you the question Jennifer Thomas asked me. What part of your identity have you been treating like a burden when it may actually be the source of your greatest leadership strength? Maybe it's your background, maybe it's your story, maybe it's the thing that made you feel different, the thing that made you question where you belong, the thing that made you work twice as hard to prove you deserve to be in the room. What if that thing, that exact thing, is the thing the world needs most from you? Because here's the truth: the leaders we remember, the leaders who change industries, who shift culture, who open doors for everyone who comes after them, they're not the ones who fit in. They're the ones who refuse to. They're the ones who said, I will not shrink. I will not simplify. I will not make myself smaller so you can feel more comfortable. They're the ones who turn complexity into clarity, difference into distinction, survival into something sacred. And you can too. But it starts with a choice: the choice to stop hiding the thing that makes you different, the choice to stop apologizing for the thing that makes you complex, the choice to stop treating your identity like a liability and start treating it like the leadership advantage it actually is. Because the world is waiting for leaders who can hold space for complexity, leaders who can see people, not categories, leaders who can navigate difference, build belonging, and create cultures where everyone can show up fully. And that leader is you. So here's my challenge: go back to your team, your business, your community, and ask yourself, where am I still shrinking? Where am I still code switching? Where am I still making myself smaller so that others can feel more comfortable? And then stop shrinking, stop apologizing, stop waiting for permission to be fully you. Because the thing you've been hiding is the thing that will set you free. And the thing that will set you free is the thing that will change everything. Thank you.